Hello and welcome to another episode of Casual Friday. I'm here with the Duck, and I can't believe it's been another week. Don, maybe it's because the daily chart hasn't moved, and we know that's my lowest time frame reference. I'm looking at a wonderful hourly candle at the moment, but it seems like we're still cursed for the time being. And every time I open Twitter, it's just more influencer coin, sort of low cap meme coin stuff, and I'm getting pretty fatigued at this stage. But how are you? On to more positive things.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I mean, the price action stuff been horrendous. I've been like trying my hand at doing like some like smaller account shenanigans, and it's gone not so great.
I can't
But
tell
that's
looking at some of these candles, Don. I thought you'd be nailing it.
no. I mean, I'm still like the account is still up quite a bit in general, but I've been chopped up more than you could imagine. So I mean, it's been fun.
And if
But
Don is
no.
getting chopped up, I'm not going to tell the rest of the audience or infer how they're doing. Speaking of chopped up, getting chopped up costs a lot of fees. You know what doesn't cost a lot of fees? Okay, no, I'm not going to go down that way. I was this close, Don, to just making it like a proper sad sponsor transition, but I can't do it. I haven't got it in me. But we do have a sponsor for the show, WooX. People are trading on there, ourselves included. They may or may not have a trading competition going on soon, which we'll punt in. So if you want to get ready for that, I don't even know if I'm allowed to mention that, but I've done it now. Go sign up, click around, get chopped up with Don, and then we'll potentially see you in the trading competition if it happens. And if it doesn't, I never said anything. But yeah, links available down there, and some recommended reading first about the exchange, how it works, how to get zero fees, the trades, the trade-offs, the business model, so on and so forth. So go check that out. And the second bit of housekeeping is I went through the comments from last week's Casual Friday, and this is, our audience is just really nice. I know we probably didn't say it enough, but if you I'm sure you, like I, periodically sort of scroll through to see what people are saying, and if they're not complaining about light mode or the audio, for which we apologize unreservedly, at least for the audio. For the light mode, demons, get out of my face, right? But for the
Yes.
audio, fair enough. But by and large, the comments were all lovely, and we appreciate you for liking the show and coming around and listening to us. Especially when we get into like an hour and 40 minutes, those types of long episodes, it takes a certain type of freak to listen to us for that long. So thank you. I suppose wanted to say that much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always impressed that people actually listen to us in general. So for them to do it for 100 minutes straight, I'm impressed.
It is, yeah, and we're grateful for them. We're going to have to, maybe not as long this time around, Don, given the market hasn't really moved as far as BTC and ETH. We've got some fun news to chat about, but just to get that out of the way. And also, there was a funny comment last week which said the video starts at like 28 minutes, 30 seconds, which is the first time we spoke about like the chart instead of getting like derailed by something else. So for as a courtesy to that viewer, we're going to jump straight into it. The weekly hasn't done anything. I think that suffices to say. We had a spike last week and closed above some of the more recent lows. But since then, at the moment, we have an inside week, which means the price action of the current week is sort of capped within the price action of the week before it. And so those types of inside weeks generally lower volatility. And it's the week after that where you can look for inside week failure setups, such that you take the inside week as its own mini range. So let's say this weekly closes like it looks now. You'd mark out the high and the low of that candle and basically treat it as a range. See if the market wants to poke one side, and if it reverses or fails to break through, you look for the midpoint and the other side. But even that's a bit of an extrapolation. I'm sure Don is rolling his eyes to the back of his head doing jumps because bigger picture on the weekly, it's either above 30k, starts to look good, or down closer towards 22, 24, those same weekly areas. Starts to look, well, it'll look shit, but at least it'll be at structure. Anything else, you get chopped up like Don on his play account. What do you think of
Yes.
the weekly? Is there anything? I doubt this specific candle in its current form has changed your mind to any significant
Um,
degree.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really mind it. Like, it could have been much worse, is what I'm gonna say about the
2 days
weekly.
left, Don.
Because at the end of the day, right? Like the chart, basically the last, like when we had that retest of 30k, that was the most bearish thing we could have had. Like poking above resistance and then retesting it like that and then falling back down. That's bad, right? That's like really, really bearish. So the fact that we haven't broken down further this week is something that I will actually note as a positive. Um, but yeah, it's not the greatest looking chart as long as it's trading below 30K. That said, I actually have been like looking if I want to get involved again or not. But it's been tough finding good reasons, right? Like for me, and this is the worst trading advice that I will ever give. For me, sometimes I sit there and I'm like, I actually want to get long. Let me find reasons. You should never do this, by the way.
This is
The
the issue,
worst
Don.
thing.
You with your esoteric, self-serving wisdom, always end up saying shit like sometimes you buy resistance, sell support, decide a position, then you look for reasons, and then shitty trade educators like me have to undo weeks and months of damage that's been propagated by people like you. But hey, at least it
Oh,
keeps me in
yes.
business, right? With my free videos.
Yes, I mean, basically, I give the shit advice
Yeah.
and you repay it. I'm down for it. Anyway, that's what I've been doing, and I've not been really finding good reasons. But I would love to find good reasons in terms of like, I mean, I think the best reason you could get beyond just the 30K reclaim is the daily range reclaim, right? And that would be moving back up above 27.4. We got smacked down yesterday quite hard by that. Actually started looking somewhat okay, but it was a bearish retest.
It was Altcoin Thursdays, Don. You should know better.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes, right? And funny enough, yesterday that was actually a really interesting day because the S&P moved up a lot and Bitcoin just completely nuked, which is an interesting one. Bitcoin just kind of decided to follow. Like we have a few things that we can copy trade in crypto, right? One is the S&P, where S&P goes up, Bitcoin goes up. That's great. Then we have gold. Gold goes up, crypto goes up. Great. And then we have the dollar index. If that goes down, Bitcoin should go up, right? Like that's the three ones where we kind of chase, like as crypto people, we kind of choose which one we want to kind of follow. Yesterday, the S&P went up, and you could see that Bitcoin was just getting mercilessly smacked down, which just goes to show that there's quite a bit of weakness there, because if it was strong, it would have just followed. Today, we have the same with gold, right? Gold's up a lot, or was at least the last time I looked, which could change given stuff is moving quite fast.
Sure.
But yeah, gold is up a bunch, and Bitcoin, again, couldn't keep up with it. So like there's
Up
very
less
little
than gold.
reason.
That's so sad.
Oh yeah, it's the saddest fucking thing in the world. So it's been a weak market, and I don't know exactly why. And I mean, besides just that we've been having bearish retests. I mean, the technicals are bearish, so I guess it makes sense to have a weekly trading market. But yeah, I don't know what you think about it.
I'm just getting really tired of this daily cluster because it's technically working, but it's been an absolute nightmare to punt with some of the intraday volatility around it.
Yeah.
I'm glad at the moment it hasn't been offering a ton of sort of fake out signals. Like it didn't, even though that daily candle from 2 days ago closed green with a long wick, it closed right into resistance, you know? So thankfully that was decent enough to sort of not generate any false type of reclaim ideas. But
Yep.
the volatility compression into this level is becoming a pain in the ass. I just want this thing to decide. I think next week is super likely to. These sort of bearish but not bearish but still bearish retests just are really getting on my nerves. I think I'm just impatient, really. Same with like the ETH weekly, right? How many more weeks are we going to have to talk about the failed breakout that's moved like 5% from the point of failed breakout?
Yeah.
It's just coiling at uncomfortable prices. And again, you're stuck with that dilemma that, hey, it looks bearish, but if it's really bearish, it should have been bearish sooner, you know?
Yes.
But yeah, I still think bigger picture, the stuff we spoke about last week is still broadly intact. I don't think there's any big reason to shift away from that. Sort of BTC above 30K or daily cluster reclaim would start to look good, at least as far as pure technicals go. And everything else is just far less interesting, I think. There's been some altcoin action, but before that, on the ETH front, I assume the argument is somewhat similar. That yes, the weekly time frame still looks like crap because it's below 2K, but it hasn't gone anywhere as a result of failing below 2K. So that's just still your line in the sand. And it doesn't help that the market hasn't been trading particularly close to it either, right? So at least Bitcoin's been like at the daily range high, so on and so forth. ETH is kind of trading away from its clearer signal on the weekly, and on the daily, you could make a case for a sort of underside retest, depending on how you draw it, around 1850-ish. But it's much choppier than I think the Bitcoin daily, or the structure is less clear. So overall, you've got weekly timeframes that aren't at support and don't look great generally, and daily bearish free tests that are still bearish because they're into resistance, but aren't sort of paying you, so to speak, because the market isn't going anywhere. So that hence the chop. I think that's sort of what makes it up.
Yeah, it's a really weird environment. With regards to ETH, I think the longer this goes sideways here, the better it is for bulls. Because these kind of setups do have to play out eventually, and the longer they don't play out, the more likely it is that they're just gonna disappear, right?
It's like one of those Russian dolls, Don. I'm so sorry. It's okay, breakouts are bullish, but failed breakouts are bearish. But failing to break down from a failed breakout is bullish, you know? You just keep going and going and going. It's like an infinite regress, you know?
But I think it's actually like, if this keeps on going, like on ETH, for example, if you look on the weekly, if we have 2 more weeks that don't necessarily go much further than last week to the downside, I think at that point, punting on the long side is actually gonna start being interesting, even though you're gonna long into resistance.
Oh, here we go again. Yeah, no, but it's true. Buy resistance because it didn't resist. Put that on.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, when you have something that is very, very bearish and it doesn't play out as it should, then you have to assume that there's something going on. Now, sometimes you get fucked for that, obviously, but more often than not, like those are the places where you suddenly teleport 10, 20% up. So if this keeps happening, like if the same with Bitcoin, really, like if this week doesn't do anything, next week goes up a little, and we actually just come back into 28K, I'm going to assume that we're just going to squeeze through resistance, and I'm going to position myself bullish again. So like if it takes too long, I'm going to try one more time. And I mean, I do have that luxury given that I positioned myself well to kind of be protected from the downside, right? So sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm willing to give back some gains that I've made, just to test the market a little bit to see where it actually wants to go if I'm not too sure. And yeah, right now it's still all bearish, I think. But if we break some daily levels, I think the weekly levels could go as well. Yeah, that's kind of my view of the market.
So TikTok, basically.
Yep.
But that's been the theme for, I think, 2-3 weeks now, right? Like you've got the weekly, why is it moving? And the longer that goes, the higher your eyebrow should be raised. Altcoins have seen some action of sorts, at least. I covered some on Altcoin Thursdays, which is a cursed episode, as always. I went over Cardano, Arbitrum, Lido, Litecoin, OP, and Render, or RNDR. I still feel like a lot of the altcoin action is on meme coin influencer scamming, attention generating stuff, which is really annoying and just in general kind of makes me even more cynical about crypto, if such a thing were possible. And unsurprisingly, we'll cover some of it in the news portion. Have you been looking at any altcoin exposure beyond ETH? You know, if these failed breakouts fail to fail.
Wow. The only thing that I'm really interested in is honestly is Litecoin, as stupid as that sounds. Reason being that I think it has a good narrative with the halving, but I mean, I just look at these altcoins, right? And even the best ones are kind of like struggling a lot. And even the ones that had massive hype going on in the last few weeks, full retrace every time they move up. Like, I mean, if you just look at OP, for example, or if you look at Lido's been really interesting lately, where you have massive moves, like you're full retraced. That's really tough. I still think those names, right? For example, Lido, this is one of the ones, if you're bullish, altcoins, it's a good one to express the bullishness. And there's a few others, but it's been rough on that trading front, and they've been underperforming. So I'm not necessarily too formal about any altcoins. Like I've been trading, like I traded Litecoin just because I liked that chart. It went up. I sold it. Now I could see myself getting a re-entry there. So I actually like that one just because I mean, if you look, Litecoin halving is, I think, like 50 days away or something. Maybe 50 to 80 or something in that range.
You should know this off by heart with the amount
Oh,
you used to buy, Don.
yeah, it's 80 days. So that's like almost 3 months. And that's a nice deadline to have, right? Because, I mean, a month before halving, you definitely don't want to own Litecoin anymore. That means you have, technically, for the Litecoin move to play out, you have 50 days. And I like those kind of time invalidations, because if the market keeps dropping and Litecoin doesn't do anything in the next 10, 20, 30 days, it's not going to be an interesting trade anymore. So you can just get out. And that kind of stuff I like, especially if the market, like if the coin that has that is trading strongly, which Litecoin has, right? Like in comparison to a lot of other things, if you look at the Litecoin Bitcoin chart, that's actually a constructive chart. So yeah, that's kind of the stuff I'm looking at, but not too, like, I wouldn't want to buy too much on the altcoin front. Don't really see the point.
Yeah, I feel like if that failed, failed bearish momentum to the downside scenario plays out, and the market does that sort of 5, 10, 15% squeeze you talked about, then you can probably shove a bunch for a short-term trade on altcoins, because if you get short squeezes on BTC, that'll just spill over to the alt world, and those books tend to be thinner, and liquidations have a higher market impact, and basically catch like an impulse leg there. That seems to be a decent way of going about it. Absent that, it just seems to be the case that like BTC and ETH aren't supportive, and so you're kind of trading altcoins not even in a vacuum, but like being aware that the higher time frames aren't in your favor, right?
Yes.
And that's why I think the market is sort of news chasing, it's influencer tweet chasing, it's like 1 to 3 day narrative chasing, more so than anything else. To be honest, it's quite like not a sad state for the altcoin market, but it's a bit sad at least, right? That like most of the attention, we don't have like sectoral pumps, we don't have baskets, we don't have like trends or anything of that sort that's sort of identifiable where an altcoin trader would go. Sectoral rotations, none of that stuff. It's like most of the volume seems to just migrated to like scams. And yes, all altcoins are scams, whatever type of argument you want to make. But I mean straight up like influencer PvP pre-sale meme coin type of scams is where a lot of the speculation has migrated to. A bunch of the majors and high caps, like up to numbers 30, 50, 70, 100 are just underperforming relative to BTC and ETH and are sideways and trendless. And then the shiny new stuff stops being shiny in shorter and shorter periods of time and has also just been weak recently. It's a pretty sad altcoin market, I think.
I think that could change if Bitcoin does have another leg up. It's just Bitcoin price is too low right now for altcoins to really get a footing, I think.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the whole PvP thing, the whole like scam coins going crazy. I don't think that's nice in the short term for the people that are trading it, right? But I don't think
or making them, yeah.
yeah, mostly making them really. But it's not good for the entire altcoin market as a whole, because what happens is that people sell their altcoins to get into these scams only to lose their money, and then the person that makes the scam just cashes a bunch out. Jesus, where did German come from there? They cash it out and buy like a Lambo with it, which kind of just makes the whole space, the altcoin kind of space, lose money in the long run, right? Like not only are you paying fees in ETH, you're also kind of just taking money out of the market as a whole. So people sell the altcoins, buy scams with it, lose their money, and then there you go, kind of shit market.
Thanks for playing.
Yeah, and I think that could change if you get into the 30s and 40s for Bitcoin. But we need to get there first, right?
Can we get 27.4 first, please? Like, get above the daily cluster, then we can talk about 40K. But no, I agree. And actually, Carbon Based had a good tweet about this. He said on Twitter, I'm opening up the tweet now from my Casual Friday folder. No, hold on. This is a different shit post about someone sending money to the PSYOP pre-sale. the other tweet he had, I'm just scrolling it now, and I think Degen Spartan retweeted it as well. If I don't find it in the next 5 seconds, I'm not gonna look for it any longer. Yeah. Anyway, so the tweet was something along the lines of a lot of the time these sort of local altcoin manias end with an event that drains a huge amount of liquidity from the market, right? Like the
Yes.
Dogecoin, Elon, SNL type of thing was a huge liquidity drain type of event, especially with the amount of liquidations that followed after and the speculation in the lead up. And I just feel like to a lesser extent, this Ben, PSYOP, whatever type of meme coin, sort of influencer meme coin to its absolute maximum could be a similar thing. And when we go over the news segment to see like what the average crypto intelligence of the person who sent money to that pre-sale is, I think it starts to become quite telling on like who's going to get carried out and has already been carried out on this thing, you know?
Yeah, but I'm shocked that people like I've seen people send 20 ETH
Yeah.
to him, where I'm like, how did you get 20 ETH to be this stupid? Like I
That's
just
true.
don't understand. Like I would guess people that are new to crypto that have like 50 euros, 50 euros or $50 or 50 pound in it. They're
In
like,
it.
okay, they might do something stupid like this, but then I wonder like, okay, how do you have like 20 ETH? Like that seems like a big number for like an idiot to have. But
Yeah.
then again, I don't know how. Like I started out with nothing, like 50 euros back in the day, and I wasn't as stupid as these people, so I don't really get it. But yeah,
Yeah, and I
is
think the
what it
average
is.
sophistication of some of the meme coin influencer participants is particularly high, and there are and we have receipts. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Any other market commentary? I do want to finish by talking about the S&P and sort of macro stuff, as you mentioned, because that might maybe start to potentially look interesting for the first time. Um, this weekly is at least poking above the breakout level at 4170 on the S&P. It could end as an ugly spike type of thing. That would be rough. Sort of spiking the highs of the last 3-4 weeks, then closing back below would look shit. But at
Yeah.
least it's trying, right, on the weekly. And then on the daily, it did close. I mean, yesterday's close was pretty decent relative to some of the more recent attempts. So there's an ongoing breakout attempt in the S&P, and the Nasdaq has been even better than that. On the weekly, I think it's going for a higher high, which would be sort of quite a significant shift in market structure, unless it doesn't fall back below and then it's a big deviation and failed breakout and we're all fucked. Stay tuned, TM. And then the daily as well has just been marching up, right? Like the last couple of weeks, really. I just started, cup and handling, Don, your favorite. I don't know where the handle is, what the cup is, but the sort of rounding structure before pushing through the range high, there's been legacy strength. Now, we can make an argument that that's welcome because sort of risk assets, but then you could always contort that argument to say, well, first of all, if it ends up as a deviation, that would be shit. Second of all, what's the point of legacy strength if we're not enjoying it as well, and we choose the wrong thing to correlate with? Any views on macro legacy, whatever these breakout attempts? Do you have one eyebrow raised, or do you not care as long as the correlation isn't sort of either clear or favorable?
I'm just looking at the monthly, and I think the S&P could go to 4.3K, which is a little bit higher, but not that much. I think that would kind of make sense to get stuff there, as in like have moved to that resistance on the monthly and then fall back below the weekly resistance, or like right now it's support, right, at 4.1K. That's kind of what I'm looking at, but I don't have a strong view. I'm just not really sold on the S&P going back to highs. I think that's a little bit early, but I could be wrong on that. But yeah, I do agree with you that it's been frustrating, right? Like
Yes.
when you look, for example, why I've been saying I've been getting chopped up. Yesterday, I bought a bunch of Bitcoin actually, like as a short-term trade, because it was like, okay, the S&P is gonna go up, right? And then the S&P went up a shitload, and Bitcoin went down, and I was like, well, don't like that. Obviously, there's more to it. Like you cannot just copy trade the S&P, or like trade Bitcoin based on what you think the S&P is doing, but it should at least show some strength whenever the traditional markets are doing well, and it hasn't done so. So it's a bit of a struggle right now with kind of like finding an identity, and I think there's a few sellers in crypto right now that's kind of pushing it down, and I don't know how much coins they have left. So that's kind of like where we're struggling right now. And yeah, I could see the S&P start moving down if it like a little bit more up, but then down. And if it's already like if Bitcoin's already weak while the S&P is moving up, I don't want to know what it's gonna do when the S&P is moving down.
Yeah. Also, your 4,300 monthly level, can you imagine the number of Wall Street cheat sheet things that would come out if you get a scary red candle from there as like the lower high? That would be
Yes.
that would be something to behold on social
Oh
media.
yeah, absolutely horrendous look at that point. Yeah.
It would look actually really shit. I mean, my jokes aside, like 4,300 and then rejection, that's not a fantastic look. Again, I like you. I'm not a huge fan of like dramatic outcomes for equity indices. I think that you can just take it one level at a time. It's never paid to be like a big doomer. But yeah, that is a sort of very. I don't think the market's making new all-time highs particularly soon. Again, could be wrong. And I think as far as resistances go, 43, 4,400 as the breakdown level. We've printed a wick there, maybe a body there, and then sort of that's it. I could definitely see that. But yeah, as crypto traders, we're more concerned with the sort of correlations and implications for our market, and that has been messy at best. Like, we used to legit trade tick for tick with this thing, right?
Yes.
And literally the only vector for volatility that we'd have was sort of news releases, S&P related candles, stuff like that. And it seems like we've gone a long way from that now. So the macro sort of meta has subsided a bit, and we've just started scamming each other. So bring back the macro podcast on. We've gone backwards.
Yeah, that's why I've been saying, like, just leave it alone for a bit, because the moment we start kind of reclaiming shit, like for example the weekly level, the 30k weekly level, or if you want to be more aggressive, the daily level at 27.4, I think that shitty trading and that kind of like out of whack weakness and whatever, all of that stuff is going to go away. And then you can just punt it as usual, and the kind of 50 IQ plays are going to make sense again. Until then, you have to be kind of genius, and I don't think any of us are. So just chill a little bit. But then again, easier said than done, right? People will always punt.
Yeah, the temptation of punting is definitely real. I have nothing else really to add on markets. We talked about our Monday markets, did a stream on Wednesday. Altcoin Thursdays were the thing, and we've covered the stuff now, and it really hasn't moved in the last sort of 6-7 days, as you can tell by looking at the chart. Should we just move on to the news segment?
Yep, let's do it.
Cool.
I mean, we did 1 hour and 40 minutes last time, so we can do a little bit of a shorter one this one.
Yes, indeed. And hopefully we have more market-related stuff to talk about next week. So, with that in mind, I have some articles for us to discuss, and I'm opening them up in the most pedestrian, frustrating way that I'm sure I'll get dragged for in the comments. But here we go. The first one is Sam Altman's Worldcoin rolls out fresh measures to combat black market. So we live in hell now, right? Or this is like a Black Mirror episode of sorts. So Sam Altman, I think he's the director or CEO of OpenAI, which is responsible for ChatGPT and other AI developments. Before that, we actually heard of them because Worldcoin kind of propped up before ChatGPT, right? Like a couple of years ago. I think we heard about it first in sort of the crypto space. And it's basically like an identity verification mechanism that scans your eyeball. I'm probably butchering it there, but that's where a lot of pushback came from, that it just seemed super sci-fi in the dystopian type of way. And naturally, immediately, as markets do, as per the quick take section here, a Chinese outlet today sounded the alarm on illegitimate purchases of Worldcoin credentials for as little as $30. The controversial project, which is referring to Worldcoin here, acknowledged the issue in a statement sent to the block and outlined plans to contain it. So now people are going to sort of rural areas in developing economies and offering people paltry sums of money, which for them is a lot, but for the people sort of gathering this information isn't, in order to basically buy their KYC just in eyeball form in order to get this Worldcoin verification or whatever. So and there's a token launch, of course, right? Worldcoin has said previously that its token will go live in the first half of this year. The project rolled out its self-custodial mobile app early in May, and it's valued at $3 billion. Of course, A16Z is in there. Yeah, that's listen, Dom, this is the crypto degen in me thinking
I
maybe
mean,
Worldcoin longs is going to be some sort of AI adjacent open AI long crypto version shit play. What what
yeah.
do you think? I love
The
how
thing
like the article
is,
starts with like black market eyeball scanning, and then I sit there like, how do I long this? Like, surely there's a trade there. I'm going to hell if I
yeah,
weren't
the
living in it
problem,
already.
like the problem with these things is that they're already so highly valued the moment you can actually buy them as a normal
Yes, true.
person. And this is why like I'm so stupid for shit talking everyone on Twitter, because we don't get any deal flow, because we could technically get deal flow if we like if I wasn't such like
Yes, give
such an
me the deal
asshole.
flow. We're two different people doing one show. It's like the Trinity, right? 3 in 1, 1 in 3 and shit. Like,
Because little known secret, if you actually want to make a lot of money in crypto, the easiest way is just have connections and get into these pre-sales. It's the easiest way to kind of make big multipliers. The only thing that you cannot do is shit talk people on Twitter, because otherwise you will not get that deal flow. Now, the only thing that I do on Twitter is shit talk other people for doing scummy shit. So we
and
don't get
I'm just the
any.
collateral damage, you know?
Yes. So we kind of have to like we have to think about buying stuff on the open market, and then obviously like if you buy this thing when it comes out, the early investors are gonna already have a 10x to maybe even more, and then it becomes really hard to justify. That's why I'm like such a boomer, and I just trade the shit coins, like the Bitcoin, Litecoin, whatever coins of this world, because I hate all these pre-sale the pre-sale shit that's going on, and the shiny coins are always these pre-sale coins. Guess why people promote it? Because obviously they get early allocation, right? Um, so I just don't want to do much with this kind of side of trading, right? Because every time I buy something, I feel like I'm giving one of these cunts an exit for 10x. And it just makes me feel ill inside. So that's why I'm such a boomer trading garbage. I at least don't trade garbage that is kind of made by people and supported by people that I don't like, which is a bit of a problem in crypto, because
Very much
those are the
so.
ones that actually move. So yeah, is what it is.
And you don't even
But I
see a
think
lot of them. That's the thing. Like, so many of them are like Uniswap tier garbage, where it won't get listed anywhere. It's just like a Uniswap token, and maybe it'll get listed on redacted exchange or redacted exchange, and that's it, because there's some insider deal there. But for a lot of these sort of insane wealth generating pre-sale type of things, regardless of market conditions, you don't even see them on Twitter per se. You do if the shill is like really bad and needs the liquidity, but a lot of the time you just it's like a spray and pray type of thing. And if the thing gets listed and someone buys it, you're already up, you know. But yeah, that's a whole different segment of the market. I think we've talked about it before, but you are correct that like, especially for like a large contingent of even the sort of trader crowd, if we're going to be completely candid, sort of just like who you'd think are active long-term traders in the space. If you sort of broke down the sort of sources of their income or revenue and so on, I think most people would be quite surprised by the amount of it that came from like venture, seed, investor, token partnership type of things that may or may not have been disclosed, often on the may not side. It's the same with crypto
yes.
YouTube, right? It's like you don't make money off the ads on YouTube. It's like the reflink industry there. We've got one in our description, but trust me, it's it's not quite there yet. We'll put it that way. But like the model there is the reflink thing, but also, unfortunately, again, it's about partnering with projects, getting tokens at super discounted prices, shilling those tokens to your audience, and then voila, right? Magic money
Yes.
machine. One of my bigger philosophical objections to that, with the token side specifically, is if you even if someone does sort of offer a disclosure, be it on Twitter or on YouTube, they'll say something like, "I'm partnered with this project," right? Or "I'm working with this project." But that doesn't do it, like that wording in itself just simply doesn't do enough to convey the massive fucking asymmetry between the terms that they got and their P&L at the time of offering you the coin versus what you're going to get, right? Like if you just sound like I'm working with this project and then, I bought some, whatever, it kind of sounds like you might be on even footing with your audience, but sometimes you're going to be up 10, 50, 100x before they've even heard of it. And I think just that asymmetry needs to be conveyed more clearly, and it's not sufficiently covered by just saying, "Oh, I'm working with them,"
Yes.
And the same goes for just some of the market caps of these things are, and the sort of liquidity and the depth of the order books and the total volume, any kind of metric of the umbrella term liquidity you prefer, is just so laughable, right? That like even like a 10K purchase can make this thing completely fly because it's so small and illiquid. And so it just doesn't make, it shouldn't make sense to shill that to your audience, knowing that even if a tiny portion invests even a little, the market impact is going to be outsized and it's going to be skewed even more in your favor, because not only do you have allocation before making that bit of content, but your allocation came even before that in some sort of seed deal style partnership thing. So it's just, you're up like 1000x through basically zero effort. And I just think those two asymmetries of your terms versus theirs and the market impact that they're likely to have just don't get conveyed with sufficient clarity. A bit of a tangent there, but yeah, that's
I mean, I
what I've got.
100% agree. It's just, it's a little bit of a fucked up situation, and I've never come to peace with it. Like the moment I learned of it, I was disgusted by it, and ever since then, I've been staying away as much as I could from one, people that do it, and two, I mean, I just never did it myself. But I mean, you see, like this is like a lot of money for a lot of people in the influencer space. It's just, I think it's a bit stupid. There's better ways to make money, I think, where you don't have to feel scummy doing it. But
Better, yes. Easier, debatable.
I mean, there's no easier way to make money, I think. Like it's literally just you invest in like the better 10 projects that get pitched to you, especially if they're pitched to you by other bigger accounts.
Yes.
And then it's the easiest money you'll ever make. But
I don't know whether to be proud of embarrassed that I've been here for 6 years or whatever, and I've never done a single VC seed deal investment in my whole life.
I actually haven't done any either.
Yeah. We suck at this, really. I mean,
Well, we do. I mean, this is literally the only reason why a lot of people do this kind of shit, right? Like you laugh as a trader on Twitter, and
Yes.
then you just try to get the deal flow. I mean, that's the way to make it.
yeah, because TA attracts followers and engagement, right?
Yes.
And the trading side, the leverage, screenshots, portfolio, whatever. And also just talking about altcoins a lot does that. So you do that, you build up your following as like trader, speculator, futures, leverage, whatever, and then you gain a following as a result, especially if you use TA, which is kind of the lowest common denominator and available to everyone. You build a following that way, and then your following opens doors as far as investment, seeds, yada, yada, yada. And voila, you've made it. We should talk about something else.
Yes.
But yeah, that is, I mean, we've talked about it before, and it's just helpful at least to know that that exists. Have you heard of this Coinbase subscription product?
Oh yeah, where you pay a bunch monthly.
It looks terrible. Coinbase expands subscription service to UK, Germany, and Ireland. So this is called Coinbase. What's it called? Coinbase One. Yeah, Coinbase One subscription product, which offers 0 fees on each trade in return for $29.99 monthly. And there's also some 24/7 customer support, boosted staking rewards, and introductory offers to crypto data services like Masari, etc., etc. So I took a look at some of the terms because obviously, also, just to get this out of the way, given we just talked about ethics for like 20 minutes, when we talk about other exchanges, whether we like it or not, and despite our intentions, it's still sort of ethically correct to say that we have a conflict of interest of sorts, given the show is sponsored by an exchange. So you'd be forgiven for saying, I'm going to skip through the part where they talk about other exchanges because they are sponsored by an exchange and therefore could, in theory, be incentivized to speak ill of them or promote their own sort of economic interest and so on and so forth. Now, we don't bloody do that, and you'll recall from our entire time on this show, and we just kind of call it how we see it. But again, purely sort of ethically and philosophically, if you want to take that point, we completely understand. Nonetheless, as far as this 0 fees kind of thing went, I saw on their sort of FAQ page that there is a limit. Sort of the first question is, can I be reimbursed for previous trading fees? They said no. And then there's another section which says, why was I still charged a trading fee? And there are 2 important qualifiers here. One is that you may have exceeded your trading cap for the month. You can check this in your account settings. I saw somewhere, don't quote me on this, that it was 10K. Right? 10K.
No.
Yeah. I saw that it was 10K, so I'm like, okay, this product is a scam. And then the second one, Don, make sure that you are using the simple trade feature in Coinbase. Coinbase One fee trading is not currently extended to advanced trade. So, like...
I mean, that's just embarrassing.
That's just a garbage product. So if you want to, so this is literally for the person who just has some money on Coinbase, wants to complain to customer support that they lost their 2FA key again, or someone animated their ape, right? And then they can't even use Coinbase Advanced or their futures exchange. None of that. You can just go to Coinbase, the basic buy and sell button, without an order book, any of that, and even then you have a limit. That's what zero fees means. You know who has real zero fees, Don? But yeah, this is, look, I get it. Like a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, like the whole ledger, hardware wallet, restore your private seed type of thing. These are products designed for normies, right? Like peak normie type of people who just feel like they're paying like a slight premium to get a slightly better experience. But if you're sort of serious trader oriented investor type of person, this isn't the product for you, I think. But yeah, this is particularly bad because I read zero fees. I'm like, oh, well, they just launched like a futures exchange. How's this going to work? Is it for spot? What about Coinbase Advanced? GDAX, shout out the homie RIP, used to be really good. And then, yeah, apparently there's quite a small limit on this. And even then you can't use any actual trading interface. And it's just the Coinbase simple one that's available.
It's
so
basically
a bit
hey, pay us 150. And if you would ever make more than you're paying, as in like with the missed out fees, then you don't get any. Like it's such a stupid system,
Yes.
You put it up basically, and you're like, hey, you're paying 150 euros to always lose, because if you actually make this thing work for you, we're gonna shut it down because it's a 10,000 limit, and if you don't, well, we'll take your 150. Like, that just seems like such a scammy product to me. Like, I don't understand how this makes any sense.
It's not great. But 24/7 customer support, I mean, that's,
yeah, but I mean, you do have customer support, even if the quality is arguable, but you would still have customer support even if you didn't have that. So I don't...
It's funny that they can offer like higher staking fees. It's like, yeah, well, the product is... it's robbing you blind, right? I'm not surprised you can offer me better staking fees if that's the trading side of it. But yeah, just some interesting provisos there. This one was interesting. Binance CEO surprised Dogecoin hasn't died yet, but Elon Musk latched onto it. Based CZ there, as far as sort of identifying the driving factors there. And the quote, I think it's from a Twitter space or something, maybe an interview. One meme coin that really surprised me was actually Dogecoin. It has had a super long lasting power. I thought it would have disappeared a long time ago, but Elon Musk latched onto it and extended its life, maybe. And I think that's right.
Oh yeah, actually 100% true. It's just true. It's kind of funny because Elon made the whole meme shit, like the meme cycle in crypto, come back, because it was on its way out. We had meme coins like a long time ago, and Dogecoin was like doing like it's kind of like Dogecoin had its own cycle, like the meme coin cycle, but it wasn't really something that went viral ever. And Elon actually kind of made the whole meme coin thing popular in the normie world, which we now have to deal with, right? Like now we have garbage like Pepe and other coins. I would make Elon responsible for that largely, because he kind of made it so it's like a popular crypto product, the meme coin, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but is what it is, I guess.
It's because you missed out on Pepe, Dom. That's why you're crying and seething. L ratio.
Yeah, horrendously sad about that one.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, CZ also says about meme coins, it is what it is, Chad. It says, right now it seems to be popular, but having said that, I do think there's very high risk. And he said he's not against meme coins, and Binance lists them, in fact. And he says, we tend to follow what our users are active at. So again, this is sort of points to a difficult fork in the road for exchanges, where you know that the majority of your users by number are going to lose money trading this stuff, right? Like that's not news to anyone. I mean, you could expand that to trading more generally, but certainly with like mega hype meme coins, that distribution of how much of the, how many people are going to lose versus win, to put it simplistically, it's skewed even more than the average sort of altcoin perp, right? It's sort of absurd. But if they don't list it, their users will just complain and go elsewhere. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So it puts them in a pretty tough spot. If you don't list it, someone else will. And if it's something like Pepe, and we saw it flip ETH perps 4, 2, 3 days, and you consistently miss out on those. Some people could just genuinely migrate their business as a result. So, I mean, what side of this? I mean, do you think there's an easy resolution to this dilemma?
No, I think it's kind of stupid because I think you have to list it because at the end of the day, the exchange isn't really like the exchange shouldn't dictate what is being traded and what isn't. You know, like if you do that, it's just censorship in a way. Like if a lot of people want something,
Yes, and also it's picking winners and losers, right?
yes, which we have enough in crypto already. I mean, Binance does a lot.
Yeah, true.
Like Binance does a lot of that too, right? With their stuff, like they pick winners and losers because they're so big. But I cannot really fault them for listing stuff like Pepe, for example, because people want to trade it and they want to make money, so it kind of makes sense from a business standpoint. So I'm not hating on Binance for listing it. I'm hating on the people that promote it more so than anything else. Now you could argue that Binance listing it is promoting it, but it's their job to list stuff, right? So
they're just the venue, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're just a venue, or should be anyway. They're not,
yeah.
but they should
with
be.
the 9 billion investment arm, but yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's last week's news, dog. Come on. Crypto exchange volumes sink after Jump, Jane Street pull back. Crypto trading volumes are nearing lows for the year, and this could be tied to a pullback in trading from Jump and Jane Street. And it just has the block, a picture from the block's data dashboard about daily exchange volume, and it just looks like an echo bubble chart that's going to zero. Pretty rough looking stuff.
Yep.
Volatility is compressed also, and yeah, just kind of seeing market makers pull back operations, and just in general, speculation isn't happening, at least on the I mean, there are pockets of speculation going on in like very focused areas on chain, but the trend more broadly has just been kind of a bit of a flat and shit market, especially after the big momentum impulse we had. It was like 9 big days from basically the low to the high, and then everything else has been chop since then. I think that's also in part helps explain from a market microstructure point of view some of these wicks and some of these moves. If market makers are pulling back, market depth is lower, liquidity as an umbrella term is also lower, and so market orders will have a larger impact on thinner books and just a lot more sort of mean reverting, liquidation driven trading, really. That's sort of what we're seeing. Are you concerned by this volume slump, or do you think if we kind of keep at these prices and speculators die off, it actually ends up looking pretty adequate?
No, I mean, if the more liquidity we lose, the more bearish it is at the end of the day, I think. Like, it's cool because you can play other edges that you have. Like, there's more edge, the less liquid the market is. But also the market gets more and more dead. So we kind of need the market makers. We need liquidity. If we have shit liquidity, no one's going to trade this shit. And the only reason why crypto exists is to trade it, right? At least in my eyes. So if the trading experience gets shit, it's just bearish. I don't really see. I've seen people try to argue that it's a bullish thing. I don't see it. Like, it just makes no sense to me. The less liquidity you have, the less bullish I am on the market. Like, it's less sophisticated. There's less reasons and less incentive for bigger players to come in, right? Like, crypto already has quite poor liquidity. I mean, not really. Like Bitcoin and like the futures and perps, all of that, like, they're okay. But the thing is, like, it's not sufficient enough for bigger players yet. And then you have for big players anyway. And then you have the market makers kind of like peace out. It's not the best in the world. But then again, they're probably gonna just move office out of America and like give it a little bit, and then they're gonna set up shop elsewhere, or someone else is gonna fill that void. Yes. So I'm not too worried long term, but short term, that's definitely like a bearish thing, I think.
Yeah, and they tend to FOMO back in anyway once people actually start trading more. They're like, oh, we can make money quoting this stuff, you know? Yeah. So, and I agree about this is a very US-centric problem. It's not like they're just like leaving crypto full stop because it's a scam. It's more that the regulatory environment has turned so hostile that the US operations getting shut down. Maybe that has downstream implications, like more global downsizing or less active generally. But I think, again, someone else can come in and fill that role, or they'll just come back after reorging, or if the market picks up even a little bit. So, yeah, you know what has good liquidity, Don? I'm joking, I'm not going to go there. CFTC chair says DeFi crypto exchanges will be regulated even if they are just code. A lot of Twitter users weren't particularly happy with this. And so basically this speaks to the argument that, like, the Uniswap backend and all these smart contracts you interact with, it's like, well, it's not an exchange, it's just code, and it kind of just runs autonomously. And if people choose to interact with it, it's not like an exchange, and therefore sort of DeFi and smart contracts should be regulated differently to exchanges, for example, right?
Yes.
And these were comments made by CFTC Chair Rostin Benham, talking on the Odd Lots podcast. And there's a quote here. It says, it's easy to suggest, oh, there's no institution, there's no individual, it's just code, you can't regulate that, it's self-effectuating. But that really is the wrong set of questions. It's really about what are US customers being offered and exposed to, he said on Bloomberg's Odd Lots podcast. Now, as much as philosophically I don't want to agree with him and say that, oh, well, we need permissionless and censorship resistant finance, and it's just, code is not law, but code is speech, right? And that basically it's a slippery slope, and particularly draconian if you start regulating code that people can use to interact, and be it financial, and then from there you can expand it to anything you want, and it ends up looking quite authoritarian. I'm kind of okay with all those arguments, but from a purely legal point of view, I think he's got a good point. Like, a lot of the time you've got to make a distinction between substance versus form, right? And then even if a lot of these sort of DeFi exchanges, DEXes, so on and so forth, they don't adhere to the form of an exchange. In terms of substance, they fit sort of every definition, right? So at the very least, it's not terribly surprising that regulators aren't, quote unquote, fooled by the fact that it's just code, because they can see practically what it does and what those implications are for the people, who fall under the people on the products and the type of speculation that falls under their jurisdiction. So I'm a bit in two minds about this. Like, I get it. I just wish it weren't the case, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's this, like, it's this odd place. I mean, it's the same with like how we've been trading, right? Like, it's just all between like a million kind of, like, we're kind of not really anywhere, just because regulation isn't really fit for this space. And it's the same with like trading, right? Like, we don't really follow gold, we don't really follow the S&P, we kind of just make a mix. And I think it's the same situation where, I mean, technically it's an exchange. Is it really though? Like, it's such an odd thing. Like, it's just something that doesn't really fit the definition in all aspects. But obviously, I mean, you cannot just be like, hey, just because there's not like a ZZ behind it, it can, like, everything's legal there. Like, that doesn't really make much sense, right? Because you can actually trade your coins, you can do stuff that you could do on an exchange. So even if it doesn't necessarily fit all the criteria, or if it's not necessarily run the exact same way, it's still the same thing under the hood. So yes. I don't know, it's like an odd thing.
And dude, I just don't feel like we have the political capital to make those types of good faith arguments, given our entire industry is like scam perpetuating speculative fraud, or at least huge chunks of it in 2021. And even now, like, how there was that study done, admittedly it was poorly designed, but in terms of like how much of Uniswap is just rug pulls, and it's not great. And even looking at the market in its current form with all the meme coins and Ponzi's, etc., more than ever, I just don't feel like we have a particularly strong evidentiary case to say, yeah, look, in substance, it might be a lot like an exchange, but it's important for these reasons, and this is how it's used, and so on and so forth. Because if anything, you attract attention to the fact that it's an exchange, because people are getting disproportionately hurt and rugged and taken advantage of in these venues. Now, yes, you could take the hyper-capitalist perspective that, hey, no one's forcing you to interact, so if you interface with these things, that's your choice, and whatever consequences arise out of that, that's your responsibility. That's not how we regulate anything, whether you agree with it or not, right?
Yes.
So we built this thing which works like an exchange, except the tech is worse. There's a bunch of MEV, it's turbo predatory, and there are no standards, and most of the stuff that's getting listed and traded are like zero-sum rug Ponzi's. But hey, we can make a sort of censorship-resistant, decentralized case for the tech, even though almost no one, in terms of volume weighted, is using the tech in that type of way. It's just a bit weak, you know? I just don't think crypto has a bunch of political capital at this point to be making those sort of grandiose freedom to do XYZ arguments when all we do is scam each other with the tech.
I mean, the thing is, right? Like, you could make these arguments if you were like actually doing cool things. Like, if this was actually like making the world a better place, like actively, not just like people scamming left, right, and center, right? Because then it's easy to kind of go and be like, hey, but for example, we have this and that use case, and it's helped millions of people there. It's helped millions of people there. But that's really not the case, right? Like, that's not what crypto is doing right now, and it's not what it's focusing on. It's more so focusing on enriching a few people that take the 10 seconds out of the day to kind of create a scam coin. And then the argument is just really hard to make, I think. Yeah. Like, defending yourself against like an accusation of just being a scam sector is really hard if 90% of everything is just a scam. Like,
It's
I
so
mean,
hard.
like this, and I mean that the problem is, right, that people actually want to play these scams and they want to actually like do this. That's what you see. Like, whenever you buy like a scam coin or like some kind of meme that is like too aggressive or like obviously like just a rug pull or whatever, you're voting for that in a sense, right? You're giving it power, and
Yes.
then, well, that's just the result of it, right? And at the end of the day, that's the interest that people have. Like, the meme coins you see get listed on the decentralized exchange, left, right, and center. They get there because people want to trade it. They want to trade these scams, and they want to kind of partake in like complete and utter garbage. And if that's the main focus in crypto, that's the kind of attitude we're going to get from regulators. And if it wasn't, you might still get like pushback, right? But then it'd be much harder for them to actually be like, hey, crypto sucks, or like, okay, we need to regulate this like to death. If there's a bunch of people seeing the good that crypto has done. But honestly, like, even for me as someone that is like 24/7 in crypto, it's really hard to necessarily just be like, hey, here's a million reasons why crypto is good. Like, I can find as much reasons, if not more, why crypto is bad than why it's good. And that's coming from someone that is actively full-timing this thing. So if that's the case, and as long as that's the case, I don't think we should be too surprised if we get shit thrown at us left, right, and center.
Yeah, we have like no good faith at the moment, and it's our fault, you know. But also, it's funny, like, when people, like, I've got a few friends who know sort of intimately what I do in terms of trading and so on and so forth, and they're like, oh, you know, if I get invited to some gathering or I'm just meeting with a friend of theirs, like, oh, you know, they might ask about crypto and whatever, that type of awkward conversation. And the three times that it's happened, it's always been like they think it's a massive fraud Ponzi, and I just sit there and agree with them because the points they make are actually correct about like the insider trading, the lax listing standards, and all of that type of stuff. And it's like, and you know, the zero sum of it, leverage, giving people sort of access to leverage products they don't understand, volatility, and all of that. I'm like, yeah, you're right, you know. But the issue is, again, the trader brain turns on, is all of that breeds inefficiency, right? And that's sort of what we like as traders. So when you're going through that list of people who don't know what they're doing coming in at trading, you know, if you're thinking about it from like a moral, ethical perspective, you might think, oh, that's so bad. From a trader perspective, you hear about unsophisticated participants using tools they don't know how to use and trading at bad prices. That sounds like heaven, right? And I think that's the dissonance that happens a lot of the time. But I think we're way past the days of assuming that everyone who trades crypto is necessarily sort of has a particularly positive view of the industry on the net base. I think it helps to you know, at least for your sleep, to think there are some redeeming factors, because otherwise it's just complete sort of hyper capitalist nihilism at that point, that this is a fraud Ponzi, it's bad for the world, but I'm just here to sort of take mine and leave and never look back. I mean, hopefully we can avoid that. I know some people are in that camp already, but I think overall, it's good to be aware of the realities beyond Twitter, where you think everyone's like having a jolly good old time, up a bunch of money from spot, making money, punts and perps, post a P&L screenshot, thanks for playing. In reality, I think a lot of people's crypto experience is just fucking awful, be it via influencer coins, YouTube shills, leverage trading stuff they don't understand. The list is much longer on that side, I think.
Yep. And it's kind of sad, honestly.
It
Could
is.
have been so much more when you think about it, but well, maybe we get there one day.
Yeah, maybe they should use our ref link and that'll change. No, I'm joking. Don, it took a week for one of our doomer predictions to come true. Tether to invest up to 15% of its profits in Bitcoin. So we saw that on their balance sheet in one of the last Casual Fridays, and now they've made a commitment to make it an ongoing thing. Now, it's not as... I know people are going to immediately make the Luna analogs, even though I think it's significantly different at that point. But yes, their plan is to invest up to 15% of its profits in Bitcoin. And it says as it shifts its reserves towards crypto and away from US government debt. I just really fucking hope they put some sort of cap on what percentage of crypto can make up for their reserves, and I want them to always be fully sort of collateralized in non-crypto assets and cash equivalents, whatever that may be, first. I think as long as that's the case, I'm kind of okay with it. And then whatever fucking play money you have in the billions of dollars, but for Tether, whatever play money you have as a result of the insanely high interest rates, do with that what you will, as long as the core product of a cashing, basically a liquid dollar-backed stablecoin isn't affected. I just didn't really... I mean, this isn't from Tether, but the phrasing of shift its reserves towards crypto, I've never seen more cursed words in my life, So fuck that, basically. and yeah, it's basically the same as last week. The point made that you don't want an asset that every few years will just go down 80% and take everything down with it to be like an important part of your reserve or collateral strategy. So if you're just punting some profits as a result of an unprecedented interest rates environment where your business gets to print money, awesome. Anything more than that, please don't. What do you think? Are you getting 150 IQ Luna vibes from this or no?
No, I think it's not too similar, because it's just their profits. But I always question, like, what do they want to do with it? Because they cannot sell. If they accumulate a bunch, you cannot sell. This is gonna, imagine Tether is gonna be like, hey, we're gonna sell a bunch of Bitcoin. That's just the biggest red flag you could see for the market. Everyone would shit their pants and move out. So them buying Bitcoin just means they can never sell it, which seems like a little bit of an odd one. It's technically the same with Sailor. He cannot ever sell, otherwise he's just gonna half price. So that's always an interesting one to me, just from a game theory point of view, what do they actually do with it? But I don't think it's necessarily bad in itself, as long as it's just profits, right? They make a bunch more profits, they put it into Bitcoin. That just means a bunch of Bitcoin goes out of circulation. It's not too much, but it's, obviously quite a bit. Just comparing it to miner rewards, it's not too much at the end of the day. But yeah, it's obviously always raises an eyebrow just because of the Luna situation, right? Back then we were talking about how shit this is. But Luna was actually using it as collateral.
Yes.
And was actively doing dumb shit. Tether, I have more trust, funnily enough. So I think that's fine. I'm not really worried about it. I'm not really the biggest fan either. I've seen a bunch of people celebrate it. It's not really me.
Yeah.
It's a little bit odd for me. Imagine the situation with the high interest rates, sticks around for 3, 4, 5 years, and then suddenly you have a large percentage of Bitcoin being held by Tether. Just makes me feel uneasy. But that's just me. Don't really think it's the biggest deal in the world. It's just a little bit of buy pressure, nothing else.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the best case scenario, that they hover up some of the supply and it doesn't really affect their business model and their collateralization in any meaningful sense of the term. But anything beyond that, transitioning more to crypto and away from US government debt, or if they become ideological, that would fucking scare me. Oh, well, the dollar's going to zero, so we just want to hold crypto, that type of stuff would send me running for the hills. But
yeah, that's the most bearish talk you ever get. If you hear someone say the dollar's going to zero, buy crypto, run the fuck away. That person's not sane.
Yeah, not someone who's interfacing with reality in the same way that a reasonable person might, put charitably. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this. Hopefully, it's just a bit, as Don said, a bit of buy pressure, just some profits. A few billion here and there, never hurt anyone. But keep your dollars as dollars, or close enough at least. I don't think Bitcoin quite counts yet. Ledger defends crypto wallet recovery tool against hostile reaction from security experts. So this is very controversial. They introduced a recovery tool that lets its hardware wallets send encrypted shards representing the user's seed phrase to third parties, which can then be used to recover it. And some people are just very concerned about the fact that basically a third party, yes, it's sharded and so on and so forth, but can back up your seed phrase or access it through some sort of on their end, basically. And what if it gets hacked? What if there's like a firmware update you didn't sign up to and all the security experts weren't happy with it? Some very mixed opinions. I think technical discussions aside, unfortunately, it again raises the question of where is it fucking safe to hold your crypto? And the answer seems to be nowhere. Like, especially after the last 2 years, lenders obviously aren't safe, exchanges aren't safe, and now if hardware wallets aren't completely safe either, I mean, there's no such thing as fully safe, sure, but it sucks that so many of these things ended up being much higher risk or having sort of these unknown trade-offs that we weren't aware of. It's just really crypto's been around for so long. And one of the main alleged use cases is just holding the damn stuff and doing nothing with it. That's like one of the main ethos of the space. And we can't even figure out like an effective way to do that, which seems a bit insane to me. I guess we're too busy on those fucking focusing on those Ponzi's, Don, instead of coming up with custody solutions. But yeah, what do you think of this?
I mean, there's a good way to hold your crypto, and that's just like taking a laptop that is never connected to the internet, making your wallets, kind of air gapping it in a sense, and then just using it that way. That's like the most secure way. That's kind of how for stuff that I know actively trade, which is right now none. That's how I always did it. Like the stuff that I held for a little bit longer. I think like that's reasonably safe. Also, the hardware wallet, I think it's a little bit of like an overreaction, but like the whole like, oh, I'm gonna lose all my shit if I have it on my hardware wallet. I still think you're relatively safe, but I'm not an expert on anything regarding like safety in crypto. For some odd reason, I've never, besides like sending money to the wrong address, I've never really lost anything. Never been scammed. I mean, fuck, now I jinxed it. But I think in general, like it's a little bit of an overreaction, left, right, and center. But I do agree with you. Like it's kind of shit. Like the whole crypto use case is kind of sticking your crypto somewhere and then forgetting about it and coming back and having kind of avoided inflation, having done yada yada yada, right? Yeah. And it doesn't really work that way, and that's just kind of frustrating. And I still remember like when we talked about like custody solutions and like, I mean, it's just so fucking hard, right? Like just like, for example, like when my brother asked me, hey, what should I do with my crypto? And it was like a few thousand, I think, a few $1,000s. I was like, just put it on an exchange and leave it because you're going to make a stupid mistake. Like I was like, either research it and properly do it or just leave it on the exchange. And he was like, fuck this, like it's way too complicated, just put it on an exchange and left it there, right? And that's not really what crypto is about. But I think we do have to have better solutions. And when Ledger does, and what I think they did is basically just a horrendous communication effort on their part. Like it's just horrendous. I've never seen anyone fumble the bag so hard.
And double down on it as well.
Well, yeah, just so bad. I think they could have explained what they're actually doing much, much better and would have looked better, given it's like this is a retail kind of like it's a product for retail, right? Like you cannot forget that. We're crypto degens, we do this for a living. But if I tell my brother, hey, you have to have a laptop that isn't ever connected to the internet, that you air gap like your transactions to now, and like he's gonna tell me to fuck off and he's gonna buy the S&P, right? Like there's no fucking way that he's ever gonna do that. And if we don't have solutions that might not be as safe as doing it properly, but get close, which I think the Ledger does, then we're just not going to have retail ever. So I think it's a little bit of an overreaction where people are just like, hey, this is not how it should be. And I agree, it's not how it should be. But you do have to kind of find the middle ground of making it accessible and making it kind of reasonable, while also keeping it somewhat safe. And I think Ledger, if they communicated what they're actually trying to do properly, they could have kind of made this whole thing look much, much better. So
also, the normies will love this product because we live in a bubble on crypto Twitter, where the whole immutability, security, and everyone's really sort of concerned and aware of this stuff. But for the average normie, like, oh, okay, a hardware wallet, I read that that's like good, and now if I fuck it up, there's a way out, and I can just verify my identity. Oh, that's cool, you know. So I think that's that product is gonna resonate outside of our sort of OPSEC circles on Twitter and on our personal little bubbles. The issue is, of course, the counterparty risk that we talk about with trading also applies to custody. So even then, you wouldn't want all your crypto like on one ledger or with one company that manages stuff for you. So you probably ideally you'd want some on an air-gapped laptop, some, for example, with a custody provider like a Casa or something, some on exchange to trade with, and ideally a leveraged one, so you need to keep as little there as possible. Shove some up your ass, whatever. There's a million ways to do these things, but yeah, no one size fits all easy solution, and maybe there never will be, just because of how the sort of supposed irreversibility of the tech, right? So I guess you can't expect super elegant solutions when dealing with blockchains, where the whole point is sort of finality and immutability and censorship resistance and so on and so forth. As long as I think in crypto, as long as you avoid the obvious scams, you'll probably be fine. The bar for that seems to be really low. Like the fact that people are still making money by some phishing campaigns are very sophisticated, but just like hacking a Discord and posting like an airdrop type of thing, and then you sign away your entire wallet, like that's the level of low hanging fruit that's out there right now. So if you can rise above that, your kind of surface, your attack surface is significantly lower, so some basic education is worth it regardless, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this. No easy answers, as always, with crypto, it seems. And yeah, this is just a screenshot from the PSYOP launch. Someone says, I bought 1 ETH and got 16 coins. My 1 ETH is now worth 0.00001. Dude, why? Someone says, you FOMO'd in, lol, should have waited. And then he replies, can anything be done? And again, that's not a dig on this gentleman, but it just shows you when these like social media meme coin frenzy bubbles pick up, you don't have sophisticated participants punting this stuff. It's basically like Dogecoin equivalent peak retail FOMO, except it's made even worse that you're not even trading like on an exchange where you can read stuff and understand, and you're trading like maybe spot, so it's easier kind of buy and sell. But when you're dealing with sort of Uniswap liquidity pools and you're someone who just doesn't know or doesn't get crypto and you've got pure FOMO, that's a recipe to get fucked. And that's pretty much exactly what happened with this PSYOP launch. And the saddest part about it, Don, is that it found me in agreement with Andrew Tate. Because he made a video saying crypto Twitter is bullshit. That loser who tried to use my name to shill a PSYOP scam, his scam failed. The only PSYOP was you believing he was anything more than a scammer. You lost all your money. Told you do not endorse trash from any of these clowns. And then in the video he just talks about how a lot of these crypto people kind of make a lot of money with zero value add to life and the economy more broadly, and the kind of leeches on society, and a lot of the people who give them money and just send them shit are just as dumb and deserve to lose it. And fair enough. I mean, it sounds,
funny thing is,
it's a bit rough, but yeah,
sounds like he's talking about both himself and crypto Twitter. He has a point. But it's quite funny coming from him, given that's exactly what he does. I don't really think there's much value in what he says. And I don't think like him having like a paid group talking about stupid shit is really a value add on society either. But he's right in this one. Like
broken clocks, eh?
yeah. I mean, just because you're a moron and you're an asshole doesn't mean everything you say has to be wrong. And it's the funniest thing
for example.
Exactly. It's the funniest thing that I see all the time on crypto Twitter and everywhere, really, where people are like, this is a terrible trader, so I have to counter trade him all the time. It's like, that's not how it works. Like, even if you're terrible and you're wrong like a lot, you're not gonna be wrong all the time. Just know how the world works. So
That's true.
there's gonna be good takes from shitty people, and there's gonna be bad takes from good people. I mean, this show being the best example. So yeah, I don't know. It's just how it is.
Yeah, and just to summarize this absurd saga, right? So there's a gentleman called Ben.eth, and he had a meme coin called Ben, and then famous influencer and Twitter, YouTube personality BitBoy decided to buy out Ben and acquire it, and the deal was for a bunch of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe in the millions. I lost track, but it was a substantial sum. And then BitBoy bought all the tokens. People were like, lol, you're going to dump, etc. He made a tweet saying, everyone calling me a grifter, scammer, whatever, here's my address. I'm not going to sell the coins for 6 months or something. I believe he sold them on that address 6 days later and clarified that it was to facilitate the takeover or deal, or he's got some investor backing it, and the explanation was unsatisfactory to some people, and so that's sort of the notoriety of the aforementioned Ben.eth went up as a result, and also all this Tate drama engagement stuff. And so he's like, oh, I've got another coin, it's going to be called PSYOP. And again, there's no white paper. I mean, look, the whole white paper, whatever thing, all these tokens in general are kind of memes, and the tech isn't terribly important most of the time. It just depends on how the market's moving. If the market's moving up, the tech is good. If it's moving down, the tech is bad. That's sort of how it tends to work. But there was kind of no effort made, not even a website, about this PSYOP thing. And yet people, for the pre-sale of the token, sent, I think, $7 million to his address. And yeah, he LP'd, I think, a few hundred K with the PSYOP in the PSYOP ETH pool. And so people are getting sort of down 99% pretty much immediately. And that's the most recent development. So you can just be a dude on Twitter, get embroiled in meme coin drama, and then end up making close to $10 million of just people straight up sending you their money, which is quite impressive. And by impressive, I mean a sad indictment on our space that makes me really, really bearish. But I've also learned that thinking doesn't help. I'm sure you've seen a lot of this on crypto Twitter. Like, okay, I'll long when all the scammers and grifters go away, and when all only the cockroaches are left, etc. But like, they don't leave. They kind of stick around in the shadows and come back when it's convenient. And this whole biblical, God flooding the earth, Old Testament, flush cleanse type of stuff doesn't really tend to work in this market. So yeah, what do you think of strangers sending allegedly American people $7 million to end up down 99% as soon as he chucks a couple hundred K in the liquidity pool?
I mean, it's just sad. Like, it's just the saddest thing ever. And that's why we have people talk poorly about crypto. And that's why I cannot disagree with them. Like, how could you? Like, it really makes sense. Like, most of the stuff, and this is something that you said earlier too, like when you hear your friends talk about it, it's like you cannot really disagree with it. Like, it's really hard to be like, hey, crypto's actually cool, when all it does, or all it seemingly does anyway, is this kind of shit. So yeah, we're kind of making our own grave in a sense, but at least we make money along the way. Huh?
We can try, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. It also shows just how like these people just don't have any regard for their own lives, really. Like, why the fuck would you own this as an American? Like, why would you make this scam happen as an American?
But Americans on Twitter are insane.
Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, do you really want to go to jail for like 10, 20 years just for making like a little bit of money? Like, I don't get it. Like, how much money is like a 10-year jail sentence worth?
And 7 million, apparently.
Apparently it's very little, yeah, which I find quite odd.
I don't know if 7 million is very little. I can see people start to make that calculation,
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to like, my freedom is worth much, much more than that. Even if I was poor, like if I had no money, like back when I was like 18, if you said like, hey, I'm gonna give you 5 million, or but you have to go to jail for 10 years for it, I'd be like, I mean, fuck yourself. Like,
I'd start doing push-ups.
Well, fair enough. Maybe
yeah, no, I agree. It's a bit mad. And it just also there was like a scammy, basically on the Uniswap V2. There was one of the liquidity pools was like under the same contract, but it was like for a scam and it wasn't controlled by him, and that was completely avoidable if it had been coded properly. And so despite raising like 7 million, couldn't even get like proper devs to come do the thing. So not only people losing money to like just the project itself, but also there's like another pool which shouldn't be there as a result of shoddy programming and cutting corners. And yeah, the whole thing is just embarrassing, you know? Yeah. And maybe my bias is coming through because I've got that stupid reasoning of, oh, well, the market has to go lower because this is like peak froth scamming and it's so zero sum. Maybe that's cope, but it certainly, you know, weighs on my mind. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
It's tempting to be a doomer in these times, Don. You know, you see shit like that, you just want to throw the whole thing out the window.
Yeah, and I think it's fair. It's just it's really hard to distinguish like signs of froth from signs of like just interest, really.
Yes.
Like, because this is really nothing in comparison to the bull markets we've had, right? Like this kind of stupidity. At the end of the day, the guy got 7 million, which is quite a bit, but I mean, it's not unheard of. And so you cannot be too doomer about it. Otherwise, you'll just get stuck in that bias. And like this kind of shit just happens in crypto. But also, it does make me bearish too. Like I look at it, I'm like, I just, like, it's an embarrassment to be associated with this shit. Yeah. Like I don't even, like when people ask me what I do for a living, I never answer crypto. Not only for safety issues, but also because I'm just embarrassed. Like that's just embarrassing, right? Like,
what are your go-tos when you answer that question? I say accountant.
I usually say finance. And
that's cringe.
Yeah, it's cringe and it's embarrassing.
And they ask you about real finance and you don't know shit.
I can tell them stuff about like interest rates and whatever.
It's like, oh, there's a big box on the S&P at 4,300. What the fuck are you talking about?
In the last few years, I've picked enough shit up from traditional markets to cheat my way through questions and make it so boring that people don't ask me more. So, but yeah, either I'm a consultant, which is the best. Like that's what I use most of the time. But then they ask me for what, and I'm just like IT. And then they ask me for what, and it starts getting like a little bit complicated.
I tell people to turn it off and turn it back on again.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, like I don't know, like it would be kind of cool, right? If crypto was something where you could be proud of it, because at the end of the day, like it stands for something that is quite nice. Like the original idea is quite nice. The kind of goal behind, like the reason why it was made is something I completely agree with. There's so much things in crypto that fundamentally are quite cool, where you could be proud of it. Like if a friend asks you, like if one of my not so close friends asks me, I would be like more than happy to tell them like, hey, I'm in crypto, but now it's just embarrassing, right? Because then you get associated with a bunch of scammers, a bunch of grifters, and kind of a space that doesn't really do much besides helping the scammers and grifters thrive. That's kind of how it feels like anyway.
And on the note of helping scammers and grifters thrive, this show is brought to you by WooX. We have links available now. Well, to be honest, yeah, that is a good point to round up on. But more broadly, I unfortunately agree. It'd be nice if we can make something of it that's worth being proud of. And there are little pockets here and there that are definitely better than others, like sort of stable coins for remittances, that type of stuff, and privacy coins when they actually work and aren't honeypots. Like we've got little windows, but as far as if you look at the space as a whole and where the mind share is and how much of the volume and just the money is spent at raising for just speculative Ponzi stuff, it is that the good stuff is definitely in the minority, you know.
Yes.
So we'll end on that very positive note with my shitty half sponsor plugs aside. Again, thanks to WooX for supporting the show. Potentially, I didn't say there's a trading competition coming up. We plan to participate and come up with a team and do all that type of stuff. If you want to be ready, you should read the article first about the exchange and how it works and the business model, the pros, cons, trade-offs, and assumptions. If that works, you can sign up with the link below to support the show. If you deposit over $100, you get 2 weeks of zero-fee trading, which normally requires sort of some staked woo. So you can bypass that to click around and check it out. So that's all from us. Thank you for being with us this week and surviving even altcoin Thursdays. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.